In this Fextralife video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my first impressions with The Blood of Dawnwalker, which if you haven't heard of, is an action role-playing title that's being developed by Rebel Wolves, which is made up of CDPR ex-executives and staff, including the lead quest designer for The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077. So that's pretty exciting. And this game is being published by Bandai Namco and is expected to come out sometime next year with no known release date currently. Now, I was at Gamescom about a week and a half ago. I got about a 45 minutes to an hour-long presentation of this game by Rebel Wolves themselves, and I was frankly blown away by what I saw. This is definitely by far the best game that I saw at Gamescom this year, with maybe, Phantom Blade Zero being a little bit behind it, only because I'd already played it before. But The Blood of Dawnwalker looks really, really good, so I want to talk a little bit about what I know about the game and why I think it's going to be such a fantastic action RPG next year. So first things first, immediately once you walk in and start looking at the gameplay of The Blood of Dawnwalker, and forgive me if I mess up the name a few times, by the way. This is a really interesting name for a video game. I've called it Blood of the Dawnwalker and 3 other variations at least. I know I'll probably mispronounce it at least once in this video, so forgive me. I know plenty of people who have. But the moment that you see The Blood of Dawnwalker, you can see the soul of The Witcher 3 inside of it. It has a very similar look to it. It has a very similar vibe, a very similar feeling. And I don't mean that in a way that it's copying The Witcher 3, but you can just see the same amount of polish and passion that's put into this title that The Witcher 3 has, which is arguably one of the best action role-playing games of all time. For some people, it's even their favorite action role-playing game of all time. And they don't even need to justify why. So essentially the concept for this game is that it takes place in medieval Europe. You might be able to deduce that from any gameplay or trailers you've seen. This should be quite obvious. It's obviously a fictional timeline of Europe. But what's really interesting about The Blood of Dawnwalker is that unlike what you might expect when you first hear about this game, the vampires of this game are actually in power in the area that you're in. I don't know if they dominate the whole world or the whole landscape, but they're certainly in control in the area of the world that you live in. And the citizens of villages and towns actually have to pay them blood tribute regularly in order to stay on their good side. This keeps the vampires fed and from preying on village folk. So you're kind of servants or beholden to the vampires in some way. And that's a little bit different than what you normally see in a vampire story. Normally, the vampires aren't in total control of everything. The human population is in rebellion against them or trying to fend them off. But in this case, they're actually already seized power, and you're trying to cope with the ramifications of that. And as a Dawnwalker, you're actually able to traverse the daylight and the night of the game. This is something that's very unique about Dawnwalkers. Not all vampires can do this. The mark of a Dawnwalker in this game seems to be the 2 different colored eyes, which you'll see in promotional artwork and any close-ups you see of Cohen. You'll see that he has 2 different colored eyes. And this kind of indicates that he is a Dawnwalker. And what's really unique about this game is that as he makes his way throughout the game, whether it's day or night, he'll have different abilities. When he's in the daytime, it seems like he's human, although it seems like he can cast magic or something like that, some sort of spells and abilities. And when it's nighttime, he has access to his vampire strength and his speed and abilities that a vampire would normally have, which he doesn't have during the daytime. So as you make your way through the game, what you're capable of as Cohen is going to vary depending on the time of day and what you're doing. And the day and night cycle of The Blood of Dawnwalker plays a huge role in the gameplay because not only are the abilities and capabilities that Cohen has different depending on the type of day, the quests that you attempt to complete in the game are going to change depending on what time of day it is. For instance, if your goal is to get to the top of a clock tower, if you're playing at night, you might be able to just super run, jump, climb up as a vampire very, very easily. But if you're playing during the day, maybe you need to convince the guards to let you in and maybe falsify some paperwork. And there are pros and cons to doing each quest, at a certain time of day. And I don't know all the specifics of it, obviously, because we just got to see a small slice, but it seems like most of the quests in this game are going to have different outcomes and different ways to solve them, depending on whether you're doing them during the day or night. And these things are factored in. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that plays out through an entire game and how much that mechanic actually impacts the gameplay of The Blood of Dawnwalker. And also something that's interesting that kind of piggybacks off this point is that time is a currency in Blood of the Dawnwalker. The Blood of Dawnwalker. See, I did it. Time is a currency in this game, and as you make decisions on quests and talk to people during certain quests and take on certain quests, time is going to advance forward. And why that's really important is that the main character that you're playing is Cohen in the game, and his sister has been abducted by vampires, and she has a very limited amount of time to live. I think it's 30 days. Don't quote me on the exact number of days. I think it's 30 days. And your primary objective is obviously probably taking on or liberating people from the vampires. But another primary objective for you is to save your sister before that time limit is up. They did not explain to us what would happen if you failed. They simply said the game would continue. You wouldn't lose the game, but you would have to deal with the ramifications of failing. I'm assuming in this case that means she's dead or something like that. But they did show us a trailer at the beginning of our gameplay session that seemed to indicate that his sister was turned into a vampire. So I don't know if that just means like she gets indoctrinated into the vampire ways and she becomes evil, or, there are other ramifications that could happen to her beyond death. But time is a currency in this game because every decision you make that impacts the storyline in some way is going to advance the time forward. And this is how you get that day and night cycle. And also it creates tension towards, are you going to be able to save your sister in time? And I think this is something that's really, really special about this game. I haven't seen a game really do this since like Fallout 1. There are probably other games that have done it that I can't think of off the top of my head. But I know a lot of people, when they first heard about the time mechanic, were thinking, oh, this is going to really suck. If I fail the time, then I fail the game. You don't fail the game. That's not true. You just have to deal with the ramifications of that, which we don't know exactly what they are currently. It may be that, something bad happens to your sister and you can still recover from that. It may not. I don't know. Maybe that depends on the decisions that you make throughout the game. But I do want to see how this plays out in practice. It sounds interesting to me. I like the idea of creating tension via the time mechanic, making your decisions really weightful, because it's not only about what you want to do, but how much time you're going to sacrifice in order to do it. And also moving the time forward changes the day from night or night to day. So it's advancing the gameplay elements simultaneously, which is pretty cool. And talking a little bit about the combat of the game, as we know, the Dawnwalker will have some sort of vampire powers. I don't know exactly what the extent of those are. We'll have to see. We only got shown a very small sliver of the vampire powers in the game. I think this is something that they're keeping under wraps for now. They don't want to play their whole hand yet. But the sword combat, the fighting like humanish type combat, they did showcase against a boss. It looked very Witcher 3-esque to me in the sense that you would dodge and then block and then attack. You could parry and things like that. The camera angle looked very Witcher-esque to me in like the sense of the way that it revolved around your character. But they also did mention that there would be another or at least one more camera setting that affects combat, so you can change it if you don't like it. I don't know if there are going to be other ones or not, but I did get a really big Witcher 3 feeling from the combat so far. It did look a little bit improved over the Witcher 3. I'm not a huge fan of the Witcher 3's combat. I think Witcher 3 was a fantastic RPG. The combat would arguably be the weakest part of the game. Again, weakest doesn't mean bad. It simply means everything else was so good that the combat was, probably slightly above average or above average, but nothing compared to how good everything else was in that game. So I definitely think that the combat is one of those things I'm keeping an eye on in this game, and I want to make sure it's even better than what I've seen so far in the demo. And the reason that I think this game is probably the best show at Gamescom so far comes down to the level of polish that this game had in its presentation. Admittedly, I've seen this before with Cyberpunk 2077. Their presentations were absolutely incredible, and what we got was something different. So it makes me a little bit hesitant, but at the same time, I'm super hopeful for this game. This is a group of people that broke off from CDPR, and hopefully that means they're the people that didn't like the way things were going with that, and they're trying to create something new over here. But the level of polish of this game is absolutely staggering. It was the best looking game at Gamescom visually. The vibe of the game was amazing. The audio of the game was incredible. The art direction of the game was incredible. And the gameplay itself just looked really fun, and the decisions looked really meaningful. So everything I saw, including, all the other fantastic games at Gamescom, Phantom Blade Zero, Crimson Desert, which I still have to do a video on. I played that again, which is still really good. Lots of other games. Dawn of War 4 I played at Gamescom. I got to make a video on that. That was really good. There's a lot of great games this year at Gamescom, but this by far is the one I'm most hopeful for. It's the game that has the potential to be the best, but it could also be not as good as some of those other ones easily too. They really have to nail the gameplay aspect, and that's kind of what the jury's still out on, because we haven't seen a ton of that yet. And another reason that I think this game is going to be very, very successful is that the lead character of the game, Cohen, is voiced by Will Dorenzi Martin, who is the main voice actor. I got to spend a couple hours chatting with him at Gamescom. He's a very, very cool guy, by the way. I'm a big fan. He's in a lot of games you may have heard of, including Baldur's Gate 3, Warhammer 40,000 Rogue Trader, Zenless Zone Zero, just to name a couple. He's done many, many other games as well. But he is voicing the main character of this, and he's a really, really cool guy. We talked at length about the game. We talked about voice acting in general and how challenging it can be to convey emotion when you can't show body language, and a host of other things that I won't mention here. But if you haven't checked him out before, go look at his other stuff. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised that he is voicing the main character of this game. So, Will, if you're out there watching this video, I cannot wait to see what else you're doing here. So that wraps up my video on the Blood of Dawnwalker. I hope you guys are excited as I am about this one. It looks absolutely amazing. It has the potential to be an absolutely staggeringly good game. One of those games that, you know, I don't know. I'm not going to go out and say it's as good as Witcher 3 from what I've seen so far. It's too early to make any such statement, but it has that level of polish in the slice that I've seen. If that remained throughout the whole game, I think we're looking at something very, very special here, and I can't wait to see more. But I want to know what you guys think. Are you guys excited for this one? Have you not heard of it yet? Is it flying under the radar still? This game comes out in 2026, which is still quite a ways away. I haven't seen as much coverage about it as I thought I would from the game show, so let me know what you think in the comments below.